Hello, and welcome to our pre-lecture for our first section on ethics. We're going to be shifting now from our discussion of epistemology through the text Knowledge, a Very Short Introduction, to a discussion about ethics through our text Ethics, a Very Short Introduction. In this video, I'm just going to give us a little bit of a background to ethical theory in general, and some of the things we're going to be talking about in this first chapter. So the basic thing that is most important to get clear on is what exactly ethics is. So ethics is the philosophical study of morality. This means it's about questions of right and wrong in a moral sense. That is, not just right or wrong answers, but good or evil. Right? A specific kind of right and wrong. And when we say that it's a philosophical study, we mean that it is subject to those same kinds of rigorous argumentation that we find in other fields. One of the challenges we'll find with ethics is we're going to discover that many of our ways of thinking about morality will not stand up to that sort of rigor. And in fact, that's going to be the topic of this first chapter. Now, ethics has a great deal of consequences for a wide range of topics. It has consequences for how we think of ourselves, for political systems, and how we act every day in the world. Part of this is because, like epistemology, ethics is a normative branch of practical philosophy. That is, it wants to tell us what to do as we get around in the world. Part of this is also because every choice we make might have an ethical component. So that's the general idea of ethics, right? We're just talking about right and wrong. This is probably something you're relatively familiar with. These sorts of discussions, these discussions of good and evil, are something that are pretty common in human experience. And this is just one of many indications that ethics is possibly the most directly relevant form of philosophy, or at the very least, it is incredibly significant to everyday life. Now, as we move forward into our reading for this week, one of the things you're going to notice that it's primarily focused on the challenges that ethics will face as we try to develop an ethical theory. That is, there are certain problems or difficulties that make our normal ways of thinking about morality potentially inadequate for the goals we have here. What we'll see is that these problems can be cut into two general categories, or at least that's how I'm going to present it. On the one hand, there's problems with the nature of the ethical norms themselves, particularly typically having to do with their origin, but sometimes having to do with other elements of their nature. That is, something about these principles or rules of proper behavior that is problematic or makes them hard to develop. On the other hand, we have objections relating to the origin or nature of human behavior, right, or humans in general. So something about our psychology or the way that we fundamentally are might present some problems for how we proceed to understand ethical theory. As you're moving through this chapter, keep a special focus for how you would try to respond to these challenges, whether or not you find them convincing, and if so, what that means for the way you think about right and wrong, good and evil. With that, let's move to reading our first chapter in ethics, Ethics, a Very Short Introduction, Chapter 1.